Hey everybody, it's your old friend. It's it's Thursday, the 28th of January, 2021, and it's my special looking forward show. I gave it that title because I'm looking forward to the release of my new 40-year retrospective album tomorrow. We're having a little bit of a problem here with the stream. Why is that? I've been paying good money for Speedify, which is supposed to bounce you to a better internet connection. And, let's hope that it sticks. Maybe it's also the cold air, but it keeps. I'll move over here. Tell you what. All right, with Caroline is right in the middle of some emergency or other. Yes, dear.
You're online.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, here she goes. There's a little issue of her of Medicare, yeah, and it really has something to do with the fact that when we got married, which is I'm not supposed to reveal the date, she was working under the name Caroline Lucas Sinclair, and this has caused some problems with the bureaucrats that we deal with here. As far as they don't think as Caroline Sinclair, which is the name that she's used pretty much her entire life, that it's the same person. So yesterday we had to take a trip down to the Social Security office, for instance, and with our marriage certificate, yeah, I have a copy of that still, to convince the folks that I stayed out of it. I just was there as her as her husband. So anyway, I'd like to, let's see if we can move back to the other position, because I like playing there, because it's such a sunny day, very cheerful out, although very cold, and I just feel more comfortable playing for you. Okay, Bindlestiff Blues, variations on. And a Bindlestiff is what a hobo carries his sack of whatever he stuffs in it, his clothes. Or in Tom Van Vliet's case, his Bindlestiff was always brown. Here it goes again. It must be the temperature fluctuation. It's really, when I put this up near the window, it must freeze up or something. All right, so we're back to the other position here. But anyway, I'm so glad to be able to play for you. And here it is again, although in the backward mirror world. This is the Essential Gary Lucas. I won't be plugging it so assiduously, but now I'm trying to ramp up your enthusiasm for it as it's available online on Spotify, the dreaded Spotify, on all the platforms tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And but I would advise you to get the package because if you like physical objects, this is a very nice package, I do have to say. And it was designed by my old friend Steve Byram, who's a brilliant art director. I worked with him for years, principally, I guess, in the early 80s till I left CBS Records. I was there a long time, toiling in the vineyards as a copywriter. I did enjoy aspects of it, but 13 years of it was a bit much. Now, I've been out playing full-time music since 1990, which is when I left. So that's like 30 years. And then if you add on the 10 years previous to that when I started with Captain Beefheart, it's a 40-year retrospective. And there are two Beefheart-related pieces on here. One with the fantastic Metropole Orchestra, the 65-piece Dutch touring, sometimes touring ensemble with really an amazing, it's a mass battalion of talent. I think they're still going strong, and they've done fusion-type concerts with all sorts of people like Todd Rundgren, and the list is pretty lengthy. And my friend Co de Kloot, who is one of my oldest friends in Holland, had a good relationship, I hope he still does, with them. And he mounted a concert, I guess it was about 8 years ago, maybe. I have to check the dates. But we did two. One was called The Music of Jeff Buckley and Gary Lucas, which was pretty much the complete songbook, which I re-recorded in Italy 2 years ago with a guy called The Nero and Francesco Arpino and some other musicians. But here we had some fine Dutch singers, as well as a guy from Livorno, a good old friend named Alessio Franchini, doing mainly most of the male vocals. We had Jori Zwart. I'm thinking of the Dutch people on this. Anyway, and then I did another concert with him at the Paradiso again, maybe 6-8 months later, that was called The World of Captain Beefheart. And I suggested Nona Hendrix, the amazing legendary R&B singer, experimental music singer. She's definitely a gal for all seasons of music. She did the principal vocals, but we had, again, some amazing talent. Oh, yeah, did I mention Jolene Grunberg? For the both concerts, actually, Jolene participated in, and she is Dutch. But anyway, so I got a cut with the Metropole Orchestra of me playing Evening Bell, which was my last signature piece. I did two solo pieces. I guess I have the distinction of being the only Magic Band guitarist who ever had more than one solo piece. I love Zoot Horn Rollo. Bill Harkle He had a piece on Lick My Decals Off that was called blanking out as usual. Well, I'll think of it. But it's quite spectacular showpiece. But I did two. The first one was Flavor Bud Living for Doc at the radar station, and then I did Evening Bell 2 years later for what turned out to be the final Beefheart album. Anyway, so here you got Evening Bell with orchestral accompaniment. The guy who did this arrangement, was it a girl? I got to check the notes. I've worked with so many people, and they're not always on the tip of my tongue here as I extemporize for you digitally. But it sounds great, I got to say. I mean, they really lit the lights of the song. I mean, playing with the orchestra. And then from the other concert, there's a track with Jolene Grunberg doing Story Without Words, which I always thought was one of my best songs that I collaborated with Jeff Buckley on. And you've got Jolene wailing, you've got the Metropole Orchestra doing a beautiful accompaniment, and me on guitar. And you have to check that out, please. There's the Grace demo. There's all sorts of things. There are 12 unreleased tracks on this. So it's not like a bunch of old rope, you know what I mean? And even if it is, it mainly went unheard, by most of the world, and such is often the case, there was the old joke about, the 5-star review and downbeat and then a nickel by a cup of coffee. Reviews are great. I still avidly seek them out. But you then have to definitely get people to pay attention and listen. And that isn't easy, and especially now, I don't want to be whining and complaining here, but there's just so much, a plethora of music, most of it lousy, in my humble opinion, but what do I know? I'm sure there are people who resonate with a lot of it that I don't hear. But there sure is a ton of it coming out. It's like a torrent you can't turn off, thanks to the internet and the tools by which people can make this music. But what it just means is you have to be extra good. And I think there is something for everybody here if we can only get them to pay attention to it and listen. But in light of that, I'll take the reviews, because reviews are about the best signpost. Whether, people agree with them or not, it often helps draw one to seek out and investigate other music. For instance, my friend Robert Christgau, he's a venerable critic, and I've met him a couple times. We're not really friends, but I certainly respect what he does, and he's been doing these Dean's lists. He used to be for the Village Voice. Now he's got online a thing on Substack called And It Don't Stop, which I would recommend you to. He just had his Best of the Year poll, and I'll be darned if I didn't really recognize maybe 2 or 3 names maximum of a list of 50 albums you need to hear, according to Bob. Now, if I do get a chance, I'll probably go and do a little bit of a sampling through, probably not Spotify, but YouTube, because most of the stuff also exists there, and then you get a visual component. And just see what he's talking about, because, it used to be a supermarket sweep when there was Tower Records. I can tell you I was once in there somewhere around, must have been 1994 or 5, right in the early stages of my career, because I didn't really get going till 90. And a very famous alt-rock singer of a very popular group, I won't mention any names here, because I'm sort of nominally friends with this guy still. But it seemed to be, on a Sunday night, only me and him in the main floor of Tower on West 4th Street and Broadway. And we, said hello to each other and nodded. And he had a literal shopping cart. He was doing supermarket sweep. He was scooping up handfuls from every genre in the store and dumping it into his shopping basket. And then, I just wondered to myself, I think he's going to go home or to his loft, probably a loft, and analyze all these records, put them under a microscope, in order to, I don't know, get some ideas or synthesize some new sound based on this and that. I never, ever could or would, even if I had the resources to do anything like this. I've actually assiduously tried to avoid listening to new music. This is no offense to people making it out there, believe me. I bless everybody trying to do anything in a creative sense, because I know how hard it is. I would encourage it, but I just don't have the headspace pretty much to absorb it now, as I do this for a living. But that's another thing I noticed, is that when I made the switch from amateur status to professional in 1990, and it was sink or swim time, I found that my appreciation of other music diminished. It diminished a lot, because, frankly, I'd go to concerts that I used to avidly love to check out new music, and I'd sit there and fidget and go, what does this have to do with what I do? And, hey, you know what? I should be home trying to make my own music. I don't want to have to, be a willing recipient of somebody else's marketing scheme anymore, And we're all of us pawns in these great corporate marketing schemes, especially when it comes to mainstream music. Let's face it. So, anyway, I digress. But I look to you people as my filters, because, there's another guy, Boblefsetz. I really love reading his column. I don't often agree with his musical taste. His politics, right on, spot on. I do line up there. But it's a good place to find, he gets excited about stuff, and often it'll send me to check the stuff out. So, you need your tipsters out there. I've tried to do my best in my postings on Facebook as a VJ, to tell you what I still listen to or like. But you'll notice there's not a heck of a lot of new music. But that's just me. All right, so back to this. So this, it's a primer. It is what it is. It's I loaded 2 discs up to the max. I think it's 80 minutes you can get maximum on a CD. So this has 160 minutes of music, 12 hitherto unheard things, really, and great packaging, and, excellent liner notes by Glenn Kenny, very old friend of mine. He used to be a music critic pretty actively for the Daily News. He had a column in there. He was a very early champion of mine, and I loved this guy, so he wrote some good notes, and then I made comments on each song. So there's a lot of information in there, probably too much for most humans, but you won't feel like you got cheated. I mean, I don't think. If you got this thing, I'd be really surprised. And so if you're in New York, please head out tomorrow to the Downtown Music Gallery, which is on 13 Monroe Street. I never heard of that Monroe Street. I guess they named a bunch of streets around the Lower East Side for presidents. Must be. I don't think it was Marilyn Monroe, but probably President Monroe, going way back. And if it's a step down, and it's an amazing inner sanctum of fantastic, cutting-edge music of all sorts, new and old. And the guy runs it. Tell Bruce that Gary Lucas sent you. He's super nice, and they're very helpful people in there to direct you towards new stuff and old stuff, and he's very knowledgeable. And Bruce is one of the mainstays. He's been on what they call the downtown music scene forever and a day. They've run that, and before it was called Downtown Music Gallery, he had a store called Lunch for Your Ears. They used to do concerts. I played in there once. There's some clips on YouTube if you're interested. But all right, wait, I'm drying out. Let me get my water bottle over here. Okay. So as I'm chewing up the scenery and the time here, let me just... I almost didn't do this today. I've tried to make every show 3 times a week, and I have. But I had a terrible migraine when I woke up. It must be, the anxiety of this thing coming out. They say records drop. I don't know who came out with that particular infelicitous phrase. But okay, so it drops tomorrow. And at midnight, I'm going to put a fabulous clip for the song Out From Under. One of my best songs. It was on an album, the original, called Bad Boys of the Arctic, which came out in 1994, and I had a wonderful singer on there, Sonia Cohen, the daughter of the legendary John Cohen, who passed about a year or 2 ago. And John was in the New Lost City Ramblers, probably the most authentic of all of the folk revival groups, along with Mike Seeger, Pete Seeger's brother, and another fellow. And so his daughter Sonia had a way of singing, that high, lonesome sound, which is one of the most beautiful sounds if you're into bluegrass music and Appalachian music. And there goes Carolyn. So I hope she solves this thing with him. I don't know, but I'm sure it'll sort itself out. Anyway, she sang it. We did a real good version of it, and I always thought it was one of my best. Some years later, I was down in Havana playing concerts at the Havana Film Festival and Havana Jazz Festival, and I met this fellow, Toby Brocklehurst, who is a very Englishman living down there. He's sort of our man in Havana, if you know Graham Greene's book. And Toby had the idea. He said, I want to hook you up with young Cuban artists. I want to do kind of a record like the Buena Vista Social Club that Ry Cooder made with older Cuban artists. A beautiful record. But let's do it with young ones. And so he came up with these 2 sisters, Haide and Sulaine Milanez, who are the daughters. They have another sister, too, named Lynn. I don't think she's active. But they're the daughters of a legendary Cuban singer-songwriter, Pablo Milanez, who was allowed to really flourish in Cuba. He was one of Fidel Castro's favorites, and he toured all over the world, particularly in South America as well as Mexico and Cuba. He's very well known, and he wrote hits. So the two daughters are fantastic singers and songwriters in their own right. Heide particularly is like the biggest Jeff Buckley fan in Cuba. And another friend of mine who hooked me up with Toby, Sebastian Doggart, had Heide come to America. Toby and Sebastian arranged this so they could do a Jeff Buckley tribute at the Knitting Factory that I was emceeing and putting together with other singers. I had a great singer, Diana Silveira, from Portugal, who flew in just for that. And Alessio from Italy came in for this show. And Heide was great. So I recorded a track with them and Los Van Van, the #1 Cuban dance band, who I had seen in Bogota, Colombia, on a trip visiting with my old friend Andrew Lou Goldham and his wife Esther Farfan. We all went to see Los Van Van. Caroline came down there for that at a big dance hall in Bogota, and they were great. So I was working with Boris Luna, their keyboardist, and he assembled a like miniature Van Van of drums, percussion, and horns, and we cut a version of Out From Under that was partially translated into Spanish with Joanna Gras. So anyway, my friend, I don't want to say his name or where he lives, he's being very mysterious, but a guy doing these clips for me, gratis, put together an excellent new clip for the song, which makes its world premiere on this album. You have to hear it, so at midnight, if you're still up, my time, I'm going to make it live on YouTube. Check it out. And all right. Here, I gotta show you a book I'm very much into reading. Currently, one with about 9 other ones. And it's like Chinese food. It's like pick one from column A and 2 from column B. No, that's the old style of ordering in a Chinese restaurant in America. This is a book by Royal S. Brown called Overtones and Undertones. which is an excellent overview of film soundtrack music, something I'm very much interested and love to do live, if you know my work. And Royal S. Brown apparently is a professor at the Queen's College chair of the film. She's a chair of the film studies program at Queen's College. And this is an invaluable book if you have any smattering of musical knowledge. It's not too technical, and it really illuminates and makes come alive a lot of your favorite film music composers and their famous scores. There's a lengthy bit about Bernard Herrmann in there, which is what drew me to this book in itself. But last night I read many pages about the music and the various composers who worked with Jean-Luc Godard. And it's just brilliant. Also, he has a long bit about Nino Rota and Ennio Morricone are two of my favorite composers. It's a beautiful book. It's a great resource to have. And anyway, that's what's currently preoccupying me. Now, I'll leave you with one Chinese pop tune here. Feifei and I don't think I'm going to be able to get Jason on this gig, unfortunately, but we're going to film a little concert for Chinese New Year that's going to be streamed on the Queens Public Library's Queens again, from Astoria's website. I'll post the link. In fact, I got a bunch of different interviews coming up. Also, this is going to be a live performance with Feifei. But next week, I'm doing Sirius FM, David Frick's radio show, talking about the new album. And David is one of my oldest friends and supporters, going way, way back. I remember going up to Rolling Stone when I was still working with CBS, but getting involved with Don Van Vliet, Captain Beefheart. And I met both he and David, and I had a drawing that Don had done specially for Rolling Stone, and I went up there, and I remember seeing Jan Wenner also, pass by. Anyway, they published this drawing as a random note, instead of a picture of an artist, there was this avant-garde painting, and I'll pull it out. It's in a very safe place in the apartment. But actually, if you want to see some of my collection, go to GaryLucas.com/www/DVV. I think that's the URL. And I have a gallery of pretty much gifts Don gave me and my first wife, Ling, when we were involved with him. And then later, when Ling and I had split up, I continued on with working with Don for a couple of years. And then if you click on each painting or drawing, you'll get a backstory. I wrote up sort of the origins of how I came to get this thing from Don. They were basically gifts. He was a lovely guy, And anyway, that's in there. This piece. It really has no title, but it's a fantastic, colorful drawing with little insectival shapes and faces beveled into it. I really think should be better known not only as a musician, genius composer, and poet, but as a great artist. And I know that Julian Schnabel agreed with me to the point that, I helped Julian meet Don, and that led to Don having first real representation here in New York with a gallery show, which led to international shows of his work in many, many countries around the world. And I remember playing a show specifically Beefheart related in Belgium some years ago. I think it was Kortrijk, Belgium, because they had a concurrent exhibition and they asked me to do this. And I love standing up for these people who've been overlooked. That's one of my great joys, is trying to expose other people's work. It's a karmic thing. But anyway, all right, so we have kind of run out of time. And I've talked enough about this thing. Now you got to go out and get it tomorrow, please. And while you're at it, do not forget my virtual tip jar. It would come in very handy. I super appreciate it. And let's look over the neighborhood. Okay, it's a brilliantly sunny day. There are white caps in the Hudson out there. I wouldn't recommend sailing necessarily. The workmen are probably chilled to the point where they're not working right now. Oh, no, there's a guy. And anyway, that's my little corner of the world here. See this view out this other window. There've been all sorts of building activity in New York over the last few years. I don't know how this reads through the window pane, but look, we look like giant metal robots out there. It's skyscrapers from what they call Hudson Yards, which is a controversial art space and also a habitat for wealthy denizens in New York. I've never been in there yet. Myself, they've done all sorts of fancy multimedia hoo-ha in there, but anyway, maybe we'll check it out when conditions improve, as I hope they do. I hope things have calmed down in the Netherlands. It's very distressing for me to read about widespread protests, hooliganism, and torching of vaccine facilities. And anyway, everybody, please stay safe. Wear those masks. Caroline says now they're saying wear 2 masks at once. I don't know. But just be careful. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. And check out The Essential Gary Lucas. Okay, I got to go now. Love you guys. And I'll see you on Saturday. All right.